Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Early today in Warsaw, Poland held its biggest military parade since the end of the Cold War to mark Armed Forces Day, as the NATO member country flexes its muscles in what the government hopes will be both a message to Moscow and to voters ahead of the elections in October. It's time for the parade to begin. The Polish Army's representative orchestra and choir perform Marshal Józef Pilsudski's favourite song, We, the 1st Brigade. This was the first brigade on the occasion of Polish Armed Forces Day in 3 years. In previous years, the ceremony had been cancelled, first because of the coronavirus pandemic and a year ago because of Russian aggression against Ukraine.
Bezpieczeństwo Polski to sprawa najważniejsza.
Poland's security is the most important issue, and unfortunately, recently there have been a lot of irresponsible voices, disparaging words and even jokes about security issues in the public space. And responsible politics cannot be reduced to mockery jokes seeking cheap popularity and flip-flopping on sensationalism. Poland's defence spending in 2023 is at a record high.
Od 8 lat.
For the past 8 years, we have been strengthening and modernising our armed forces, buying modern equipment for our soldiers. This year we will spend more than 4% of GDP, 137 billion zloty, on defence. In percentage terms, this is the highest level of funding in the entire North Atlantic Alliance. About 2,000 soldiers, 200 combat vehicles and nearly 100 aircraft, including drones, took part in the parade.
To także idealny dzień do tego.
It is also an ideal day to show our strength and demonstrate that we have built a powerful armed force that will effectively defend our borders without hesitation. In addition to American Abrams and Korean K2 tanks, Borsuk infantry fighting vehicles and Wolverine armoured transporters are on display during the parade.
Z jednej strony cały czas produkujemy.
On the one hand, we are constantly producing, developing and want to buy more Krab cannon howitzers, which have gained a reputation in the war in Ukraine. I personally expect that sooner or later the Krab will also be sent for export, not only to Ukraine, but also to other European countries. Allied F-35 aircraft in the colours of the US military attracted special attention. The Polish Army has purchased these machines, but they are not yet permanent equipment of the Polish Army.
Jednak, jeśli idziemy w kierunku rozbudowy,
However, if we go in the direction of expanding the armed forces, if we invest in new equipment, if we invest in new aircraft and in new ships, someone has to operate this equipment. It is not the case that half, 3/4 of this armament that we buy will stand preserved in warehouses and only be put into operation in time of war. This equipment must be operated and must be used regularly in exercises. The parade attracted hundreds of thousands of spectators, residents of Warsaw, as well as numerous guests from all over Poland and abroad. In 1918, after 123 years of partition, Poland regained its independence. However, just a few months later, Poles again had to fight to defend their homeland. In January 1919, the Polish Bolshevik War broke out. The key moment was in August 1920, when the Polish army halted the advance of the Red Army at the Battle of Warsaw.
Bolshevik Russia sought to conquer Europe and incorporate its countries into the Soviet-led communist family. Poland stood in its way.
Zwycięstwie, które miało ogromne znaczenie.
A victory that was of great significance for both the security of our homeland and the whole of Europe. Stopping the Bolshevik expansion prevented the spread of the Russian Communist Revolution to the west. Polish soldiers changed the course of history. They defended all of Europe. The victory of the Poles came as a big surprise. By the middle of 1920, Soviet troops already controlled most of the territory of the Second Republic of Poland. Moreover, the military potential of the Bolsheviks was more than double the strength of the Polish army.
Polska walczyła o swoją niepodległość.
Poland fought for its independence, to survive and preserve what it had just won, which was independence. This was very important. Poland also fought against an adversary that was and still is, unfortunately, if we look at it from the point of view of history, a fierce enemy of Polishness. The War of Bayonets was accompanied by a war of words. Bolshevik propaganda worked in full swing to encourage Polish peasants and workers to fight on their side. Agitational leaflets were distributed among them. Poles did not remain passive and responded in the same way. The Polish people realize that there is no good government coming from the east that will now distribute land that will be considered Polish, and the Polish authorities, including Witos and his government, helped to ensure that Poles did not give in to this red propaganda. This social national uprising to defend ourselves from the cruel Soviet Union is reflected in the poster art, but also in the direct numbers, where indeed the entire nation was ready to fight. An important factor that led to the victory was Polish radio intelligence, whose work was led by outstanding Polish mathematicians. Scientists from the universities of Warsaw and Lviv became so skilled that they were able to decipher Bolshevik orders faster than the Russians themselves. We had excellent military intelligence with Jan Kowalewski, with the breaking of the Bolshevik ciphers. One historian compared it to the fact that it was as if we were playing cards with the opponent, having a mirror behind its back, so we knew what trump cards they had in hand. The outstanding commanding and strategic skills of the commander-in-chief, Marshal Józef Piłsudski, cannot be overestimated. We hit a sensitive point, actually an uncovered Russian point, which caused a catastrophe on an unprecedented scale, as our cavalry destroyed 2 radio stations of 2 powerful Russian armies. Entire units from the Bolshevik army broke out and crossed the battlefield to our side, just changing the firing direction, including, for example, the Kuban Cossacks. Such miracles were happening. We refer to the Battle of Warsaw today as the miracle on the Vistula.
Cudem mogą być rzeczywiście znaki.
A miracle can indeed consist of signs that are very unprecedented, but a miracle can also involve, for example, the genius of a leader, the valor of soldiers, or some kind of mass mobilization. In the memory of the authorities of Bolshevik Russia, this defeat has stuck very deeply. It is not without reason that Katyń and the murder of more than 20,000 Polish officers is believed to have been Stalin's revenge for 1920.
In the morning, the Russians launched a massive missile attack on the entire territory of Ukraine. Anti-aircraft defences shot down many missiles. Some missiles, however, hit residential buildings in Lutsk, Lviv and Dnipro. 4 people were killed and at least 19 wounded, the Ukrainian presidential office reported. Russians with cruise missiles attacked Lviv and surrounding areas. 15 people were wounded. The youngest victim is 10 years old. The oldest is 72. Most of the victims have scratches and cuts from broken glass. 5 people were taken to the hospital. In Lviv, 20 houses were destroyed in a neighborhood near the airport. There were fires and damaged windows and roofs. One of the rockets hit a kindergarten area and the kindergarten building was damaged. Meanwhile, near Lviv, more than 20 private buildings in the villages of Strafany and Sokołowo were ruined. Fortunately, there are no fatalities. Unfortunately, there is massive damage. The rocket flew into the yard of a kindergarten. More than 100 apartments were damaged, more than 500 windows broken, and left the kindergarten ruined. The Russian military has reprogrammed missile routes to bypass anti-aircraft defences and find their weak points. The Air Force notified that the Russians fired at least 28 cruise missiles. 16 were shot down. The missiles were fired from Russian bombers operating in the Caspian Sea region and from a frigate in the Black Sea. In the west of the country, in Lutsk, a Russian rocket hit an industrial enterprise building. 3 people were killed in the shelling, and there were also injuries. Russians also attacked the city of Dnipro at night. The rockets hit the enterprise, causing a fire over an area of more than 800 square meters. 2 people were wounded there as a result of the shelling, the authorities said. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business, and more programs. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.